If you want the most healing in the Elder Scrolls Online right now for any type of solo build, then you should definitely check out the Magicka Nightblade. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. HGM here. In this video, I'm updating my solo Magicka Nightblade Blood Mage build for the Elder Scrolls Online. This build is all about self-healing. In fact, I counted at least 7 separate healing effects, both from skills and from our item sets, that basically make this build unkillable for all types of solo content. So if you're ready to take the Magicka Nightblade to the next level, then this is definitely the build for you. Let's jump right into it. All right, everybody, here we are back on the Magicka Nightblade. Time to update this one. This is our old school Blood Mage build, so tons of survivability and self-healing that we talked about in the intro. Basically unkillable if you play this the right way. So let's go ahead and jump right into the stat sheet. Let me show you the basic buff stats, which is very simple. Just with your potion, basically 33,000 max Magicka, 26,000 max health, 17k max stamina. So very good resources overall, and our recoveries are looking decent as well. About 4,000 spell damage, 54% spell critical chance. This actually goes up quite a bit in terms of your damage and survivability once you factor in like our back bar setup, for example. Get over 5k spell damage in that case, and very good spell and physical resistance. Now, obviously, as a Magicka Nightblade, we're going to put 64 points into max Magicka. That's the best thing you can do there. And in terms of the Mundus Stone, Thief Mundus, for the extra critical chance, going to play very nice on the Nightblade class. For the food buff here, I do prefer something with both health and max Magicka, as well as Magicka recovery. So Clockwork Citrus Fillet is going to work really well for that. If you want something cheaper, something like Witch Mother's Potent Brew, that's going to be a very good option as well. In terms of those potions, like we said, Spell Power Potions, probably your best bet. And for the race here, I did go with Dark Elf. That's just because we have a couple of stamina-based abilities that we're going to want to make use of on this particular setup. Dark Elf has a nice mix of weapon and spell damage, as well as max Magicka and max stamina. But obviously, this is going to work really well on Khajiit Nightblades. High Elf Nightblade even would be very strong. Basically, anything with max Magicka in terms of your race bonuses is going to be ideal. So that covers the basics. Let's talk about our gear sets next. And like I said in the intro, this is heavily focused on survivability, making sure you can survive in any type of content. So we went with kind of a classic Nightblade set here, one of my favorites from back in the day. Bahara's Curse is an overland set. You can pick this up in the Hughesbane zone. This is tradable as well. And the nice thing about this is it gives you tons of max stats, so health, Magicka, and stamina. But also you can see on the 5-piece bonus here, this puts a rune on the ground that heals you back while also doing magic damage. This is a 5-second proc, so it is a little bit short, but it procs off of all damage. So whether it's light attacks, heavy attacks, damage over time, or direct damage, it's actually very easy to get 100% uptime on this. And the nice thing is that this can damage multiple targets, and if that happens, it's going to heal you back for every single target that you hit. So 600 healing per second doesn't sound like much, but once you face, 4, 5, 6 or more enemies, that's always getting multiplied by every single target that stands in this effect. You can find this in multiple ways. You can find this in heavy, you can find it in medium and in light. Now, I went with 5 pieces of heavy just because I wanted maximum survivability, but whatever pieces you find, you can make that work however you want. Now, you will want Divines as your traits here, and then max Magicka on all the glyphs, being a Magicka-focused Nightblade. Now, we did combine this with more of an offensive set on the basic setup. That is the Briarheart set. That's another overland set. It is tradable, so again, pretty easy to collect. And some great offensive stats on this one. You get critical chance, max stamina, crit chance again, and then when you deal critical damage, you increase your weapon and spell damage by 450 for 10 seconds. This does kind of fit the Blood Mage theme as well, because when you do these critical strikes, you're going to get even more healing back, about 300 for each critical strike. Now again, you wouldn't think that that is a lot of healing just on the tooltip itself, but notice this doesn't specify the type of damage. So again, these can be dots, these can be area of effect damage, this can be from your heavy attacks, from your light attacks, whatever is critically striking, it's going to heal you for that flat 300 health or so. And what I found with both of these sets, the Briarheart set and Bahara's Curse being procced at the same time, this is actually healing me for more than my Nightblade abilities, which is really interesting. So we are using the Briarheart Lightning Staff that's going to cover 2 pieces. Precise is the trait that you want. And then just 3 pieces on the jewelry. Now, I do recommend you trait change these to Bloodthirsty because these do have the stamina trait in most cases, which you're not going to need quite as much on the Magicka Focus Nightblade. And then make sure you're using a spell damage glyph on all 3 pieces of jewelry. That just leaves the monster set here, and I did really want to focus in on that Blood Mage theme and the survivability. So Earthgore is a monster set that when you heal yourself or a group member that's under 50% health, you conjure a blood pool, removing all negative effects, and healing for about 5,000 every 2 seconds for 8 seconds. So again, a very strong survival setup here. Fairly good uptime, and I just love the way this looks. It really completes the Blood Mage theme, in my opinion, and it will definitely help you survive some more challenging situations. Now, it is 100% survival focus. It is not going to help your damage or help you complete content quicker, necessarily. So if you're looking for more damage, I'll have several other monster sets listed in the written guide. Make sure to check that out if you want to increase the DPS. Finally here, almost forgot about the back bar. With this basic setup, you can use any type of back bar arena staff that you want. I do have a Maelstrom Inferno staff in this case. This does increase the damage of one of our main DPS skills, that Wall of Elements ability. The main thing that you'll want here, whichever option you choose, just make sure you pick up an infused back bar staff and make sure you do get the weapon and spell damage enchant there to maximize your overall stats. So that is the basic setup, very easy to obtain, as I said. But let's say you want to also throw in a Mythic. You do have that option on this build. Something I was experimenting with, which is quite powerful, is running something like Sea Serpent's Coil on the jewelry. This is going to give us a couple of very strong buffs. Major Berserk, which increases our overall damage by 10%, plus Major Courage, that's going to increase our weapon and spell damage by 430. And while we're at full health, we also get 40% damage reduction. So that's going to help a lot when you're playing solo against those big boss heavy attacks. So great overall Mythic option in terms of both damage and survivability. Now, if you do decide to use a Mythic, especially on the jewelry, you can tell I had to drop my Briarheart necklace. And so in that case, all I would do is I would swap around some of my weapons and armor pieces to compensate. And you can still keep your Mythic and your monster set and your 2 proc sets. So the way you would do that, change your front bar to the Lightning Staff of Bahara's Curse. Remember, this is going to be worth 2 set piece bonuses. My other 3 are going to come from the feet, the legs, and the hands. So that's going to give me my 5-piece Bahara's bonus while I'm on the front bar. When I'm doing damage there, I can proc that rune. And then for the back bar, I'm going to get rid of the Maelstrom Staff and then put a Briarheart Staff. I do always like Inferno Staff for back bar on the Nightblade. Then we're going to add in a waist. I'm going to use the Briarheart Belt. That's going to give us our 3rd piece. And then we still have pieces 4 and 5 with the rings. So we have 5 pieces of Briarheart active when we are on the back bar. In this case, it's going to free up even one more slot. We could use something like Trainee on the chest for even more health. So that is the Mythic setup. Again, I'll have both versions of this build listed in the written guide in case you need more help getting this set up. Link will be down below in the description and the pinned comment. All right, let's jump into the skills next. Starting on our front bar. First ability is going to be Swallow Soul, and this one is huge in terms of survivability and self-healing. It's why the Nightblade is such a powerful solo class. You can see as you do magic damage, you also heal back for 39% of the damage every 2 seconds. This comes from the Siphoning skill line. That's your first ability here. So we're not using this as a DPS skill, though you can. We're actually using it more like a powerful heal over time. So you will want to cast this at least once every 10 seconds. And next up, we have Impale. This is our powerful Execute skill. This comes from the Assassination skill line. It does bonus damage as long as your enemies are below 25% health. So we will want to save that for when they are in Execute range. Next up, Sap Essence. So another one of those blood-themed abilities here on the Nightblade. Again, that's from the Siphoning skill line. Our last skill here, and you're going to siphon the vigor from enemies' blood, dealing magic damage to all nearby enemies and then healing you for bonus health with each enemy hit. So I don't typically use this for something like a single target boss. I'm going to save this for when I'm running through trash packs or when there's a big ad pool and lots of enemies coming in. It's going to do very good damage and good healing as well. Plus you can get major sorcery from this if you do want to sort of save gold on your potions. This would be one way to get that very important damage buff on your Nightblade. Except we do have our main DPS skill, Concealed Weapon. This comes from the Shadow skill line. This does very comparable damage to Swallow Soul, but the thing about this is it gives you a lot of nice buffs and debuffs. If you strike an enemy from the side or behind, you get off balance. That is great for doing things like off balance heavy attacks for more damage and resource sustain. And then casting this while you have an effect of Major Expedition, we'll talk about where we get that from in a second. You also increase all of your damage done by 10% for 10 seconds. So this is a huge buff just in terms of overall damage output, and you get Minor Expedition passively, so the Nightblade is still, one of the fastest classes in the game. Last normal ability here, Merciless Resolve. This comes from the Assassination skill line again. And it's just a big burst of damage. You can hold on to this stacks if you prefer for more weapon and spell damage. But I do kind of like to hold on to this for the burst heal. We don't have any strong burst heals on this particular setup, so that does come in handy when your health gets very low if you've already burned through your Earthgore proc. Finally, our front bar ultimate, I think Soul Harvest makes the most sense. Not only does this buff all of your damage by 20% against a single target, which is huge, this actually got buffed in the Necrom chapter as well, lasting for 8 seconds now. You also get 10 ultimate per kill, so having this on the front bar, that's where you're going to be killing off most enemies. You can get tons of ultimate back on this build, pumping these out very, very quickly. Let's go ahead and swap to the back bar. In this case, this is where we're going to find most of our damage over time effects, like, for example, Destruction Staff, Elemental Blockade. Blockade of Fire, since we're using the Inferno Staff, that's going to deal additional damage to burning enemies. Plus, the main reason you want to use this is it's going to easily proc your back bar weapon and spell damage glyph, which is important for maximizing the spell damage on this build. Twisting Path, though, is another damage over time, and this is the key when we talked about Concealed Weapon. This comes from the Shadow skill line, by the way. This gives you that Major Expedition, increasing movement speed by 30%. It's also going to do very nice magic damage in the area. But this will be what procs Concealed Weapon, giving us that 10% overall damage boost. So it's very important that you maintain this back bar skill as much as possible. Then Razor Caltrops is another AoE damage over time. This one coming from the Assault War skill line. It's your second to last ability here. It applies Major Breach. That reduces enemy armor by about 6,000, which is really important, especially if you're playing solo. Now, if you have a group, if you have a tank or a healer that's helping you apply this to enemies, then you don't really have to run this. You could run something else. Another dot effect from the Nightblade class would be very good. But for solo instances, I do really recommend this if you can pick it up. Another option would be Destruction Staff, Elemental Drain. That's a single target version of Major Breach. That's going to be particularly helpful against bosses. The last two abilities here are going to offer even more healing over time. Remember, the focus of this build is get as much passive healing as possible. Mage's Guild Structured Entropy adds a ton of healing to this build. And again, it's one of those things where you wouldn't expect this to be very powerful just looking at the tooltip. I mean, 1,500 health every 2 seconds doesn't sound like very much. But what the tooltip does not mention is you can cast this on multiple targets, similar to how like Briarheart is working on this build to Bahara's Curse. The more targets that you tag with this dot, and it's very long lasting, 24 seconds, that's multiplying that 1,500 health every target. So I will often pull with this ability if you are entering like a dungeon that has a lot of enemies, or if a group of enemies spawns in during a boss fight, tag them all with Structured Entropy, and you're basically unkillable while you have that active. It's very strong. Finally, Siphoning Attack is going to give you even more health. This is based on light and heavy attacks, plus a good bit of Magicka sustain, so this is recommended. And then finally, our AoE backbar ultimate, Soul Tether. Both Siphoning Attacks and Soul Tether come from the Siphoning skill line, by the way. This is a great emergency ultimate on the Nightblade. It does AoE magic damage. It does a stun, which is really good, but it also gives you health back. Again, siphoning the life from your enemies. About 2,200 health every second for 8 seconds. Really powerful healing, definitely recommended. All right, and then just a quick showcase of the rotation here against World Boss. I am back in the zone of Rivenspire here at Veilguard Tower. This, again, is a great test of any solo build in terms of survivability. If you can get through this World Boss, and especially the different ad waves, because they can stun you and they hit extremely hard. This is a really good test of your build survivability. So in terms of buffs, again, it's very simple. Just going to make sure Merciless is active and then buff with my potion. And then start on the back bar. Let's go ahead and do our heal first. So Entropy, then our dots. I'm going to go ahead and just block here. And then Siphoning Attack, our buff on the front bar. Swallow Soul, and then Concealed Weapon. Can use my Merciless there, because that's ready. And then just spam concealed until my back bar starts to fall off. And you can see I can reapply this. Got our Earth Gore to proc here. And then we got the first ad wave. So I'm going to go ahead and get Structured Entropy on all these ads, just to help with the healing. Make sure I have my back bar dots. Use Sap Essence a couple times, rebuff my bow. I should be able to execute these ads pretty quickly. Make sure I block that. Okay, so that was pretty easy. That's the first round of ads. Let's go ahead and move over here a little bit for the next round. Rebuff. Sap Essence. Basically rebuff everything and then spam that concealed weapon. Should be getting another ad wave here soon. There it is. So I'm going to go ahead and burn my ultimate here because I want all that extra healing. Structured Entropy on all the ads as well. Right now I'm unkillable because of all the healing I've got coming in. Swallow Soul. Concealed Weapon, block that. Can heavy attack if you're getting low resources. Okay. That was fine. Okay, this might be a bit tough because I got all the ads coming in. Make sure to block that. Structured Entropy on everything. Earth Gore for the win here. Go ahead and use my ult here and then heavy attack because I'm a little low. But you can see I'm just staying in control. Try to move into the rune so everything gets buffed or debuffed with that. Okay, and I got full control now. Rebuff here. Entropy. Block that if I can. Here we go. Executes on the ad. Can use my single target ult here. Rebuff, and I should be good to execute. Use under 25% health. Make sure you use Concealed Weapon for that 10% buff, even when you're in execute phase. And there you go. So that was a little bit tricky, but you can see the healing really pulled through and made it work. Jump into champion points next. Typical setup here in terms of slotted stars. If you do want to see the details, or if you want to see this broken down by 300, 600, 900, and 1200 champion points, make sure you're going to check out the written guide. Link will be down below. But in the green tree, we have Steed's Blessing, Treasure Hunter, Rationer, and Liquid Efficiency. In the blue tree, we're going to start with Deadly Aim, then Biting Aura, Thaumaturge, and Fighting Finesse. But finally, in the red tree, I recommend these three basic ones: Rejuvenation, Fortified, and Boundless Vitality. And then I just threw in Siphoning Spells for a little bit of extra sustain. It's going to be very helpful in dungeons and arenas. Last but not least, if you're curious about the outfit style in this particular build, it's going to be mostly light armor pieces. And these are from the Ancestral Akaviri style. All right, everybody, with that said, that's going to wrap up this solo Magicka Nightblade build update for the Elder Scrolls Online. Hope you guys enjoyed this one or you found it informative. If you did, do me a favor and crush that like button. That absolutely helps out the channel and lets YouTube know to share this video with others. And if you'd like to support the channel further, make sure to check out our YouTube membership. We now have literally hours and hours of members-only content, including exclusive builds and guides, like our brand new Unkillable Arcanist build that I just released for our Tier 2 channel members. This has massive damage reduction, and self-healing, making it perfect for solo content like arenas and even veteran dungeons, using base game sets you can purchase from guild traders, so it's ridiculously easy to get started. Now, this is just one of over a dozen members-only videos you'll have access to, plus a members-only Discord and a lot more. So if that sounds good to you, just click that join button for more information, or check out our whole list of members-only videos in the pinned comment down below. Huge shout out as always to our channel members who keep this channel going. I could not do this without you, so thanks again. Thanks to all of you for watching this video, and I will see you around in the next one.